What's the latest on the future for Kareem Hunt? Which Jaguar should be the play in Week 13? And what receiver, coming off an injury, might be a sneaky good play this week? Plus, the 27th place team owner in the Footballguys Players Championship, Scott Willis, drops by to talk about his tight end by committee approach and some advice he has for some rookie FPC players. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Hey, bro.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Thanks so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all of you Balkaholics and Gerzakin addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show has Kareem Hunt, Spencer Ware. I'm in disbelief of what's taken place over the last 6 hours. Has Kareem Hunt played his last down of his NFL career? The NFC East running back that you might want to get in your lineups. And Scott Willis joins us to talk about how he has managed his team into the top 30 of the 2018 FPC competition. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can do so. The show is at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Dave is at David Gerzak. And Scott is, of course, at Fantasy Marcel R. You can post on our Facebook page, facebook.com/HSFF Hour. 347-426-3682 is the number if you want to talk with us tonight. That's 347-GAME-OVA. HighStakesFantasyFootball@gmail.com is the email address if you have any questions for myself, for Dave, for Scott, for anyone. Post them in the chat room. Send them right now. And we'll do our best to get to to all of them in the fantasy feedback segment coming up at the back end of the show. Producer, mutual friend, Rob. Audio engineer is Bryce. Dave, it's been crazy. Well, like I said, the last 6 hours, you're still kind of getting used to what's going on with the Chiefs running back situation, the impact it's going to have on fantasy leagues not only this year, but in dynasty leagues as well.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
You remember anything like this happening? Where it's been like a first-round pick that in the span of 6 hours, they went from having immense fantasy value to no fantasy value.
Yeah, on a redraft basis.
On a redraft basis.
No, yeah. I don't. This is kind of the first.
And when it comes in the same year with Le'Veon Bell never reporting, you know what I mean? Just two landmines right in the first round of drafts with your stud running backs. Wow.
Hunt did get you to the playoffs, and
that is
a really good shot of getting there. 230 points in 11 weeks of playing after week 12, and you had the bye week. So you put up a ton of points. If you have wear, or if you have depth, you could still be in all right shape. But it's really hard to replace whatever he was averaging per game. Let's say 25, 26 points a game. It's just almost impossible to replace that. We're
going to get into much more in the Kareem Hunt conversation throughout the show tonight. It won't just be something we touch on right now. We'll get into it with our guest as well, as Scott Willis is set to join us in just a couple of minutes here, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to remind everybody that there was a new RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown that you can check out at rotoviz.com/podcast. Michael Cobb, a longtime FFPC player, who won the Footballguys Players Championship regular season points title last year, going away. Really crushed it last year. We talked to him about a lot of dynasty stuff. We talked about a lot of stuff of how you prep these rosters as you prepare for the championship round sprint, the numbers of each position he likes to have on his team. And then, of course, a bunch of starts. It's great to pick that guy's brain. He loves talking about it. I enjoy talking about it with him.
Oh, you had this already?
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about how he hated Christian McCaffrey for the longest period of time?
We did not talk about that. You know what we did?
You're talking about shit. I wish I could have asked.
You know what we did talk about, Dave, and I didn't even bring it up. Michael brought it up, the Gridiron Legends trade that, of course, he and John Duckworth co-own a team in that league. And the trade offer, and Michael copped to it. He said, look, this wasn't even Duckworth who sent this to you, but they offered me Marquise Lee and James White for Jordy Nelson before the season started.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, sometimes I get them wrong, so you're welcome for that. And I said, that's the only reason I'm clinging to the last playoff spot in that league right now because of that White trade. So, yeah, we talked about that a little bit. Anyway, rotoviz.com/podcast. Great stuff from Michael Cobb. Let's bring in tonight's guest, everybody. He's been playing fantasy football for more than 2 decades and the Footballguys Players Championship since its inception. Now with just 4 weeks left to go in the season, he has managed one of his squads in that contest to 27th place overall. He joins us now to talk about that and so much more. Please welcome into the program Scott Willis. Scott, thanks so much for joining us on the show tonight.
How you doing, guys? Are you there?
Oh, yeah, you are coming through loud and clear. Unfortunately, we are too. But hopefully we'll let you have the majority of the conversation.
Don't count on it with both of you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll do what I can to keep my mouth shut. It obviously doesn't always work. Scott, before we get into fantasy, can you tell the listeners what you do for a living?
I work at a golf course, and I'm one of the guys that drives the picker around, picks up the range balls, cleans the carts, just pretty much whatever needs to be done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that too. So, and Scott, you live over on the West Coast, is that correct?
Yeah, San Diego area.
Oh, okay. So, awful scenery, horrible weather.
The weather's like always 70.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the courses are basically. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that had to be absolutely brutal. We're dealing with snow and ice up here already in November in northeast Wisconsin. It's a wonderful time to be alive. Scott, Dave's going to ask you about Christian McCaffrey in a second here, but as long as all this stuff just happened with Kareem Hunt, we'll kind of get your opinion on it. Obviously, Spencer Ware is the guy to own right now. Did you put any bids in on Damian Williams tonight before you came on when you saw the news, or is this just sort of Spencer Ware's show now for the next 4 weeks?
You know what? Damian, I would have put a bid in for him, but I'm pretty much out of money in my leagues, so I did not, and pretty much Ware was taken in every one. Also, I just looked, inquire about that, but so I didn't do anything.
I think that's the majority too. I mean, like I wanted to place some bids on Damian Williams too, but you're also talking about like the backup to the backup, the guy behind the guy, Dave. And I didn't have a whole lot of money left either, and nor did I really have roster spots for that type of luxury right now. So I have Ware in a couple of spots. We'll see what happens going forward. But there is a guy, unlike Kareem Hunt, who is not a first-round bust this year, that has been massive, and Scott got him in the second round, Dave. Yeah,
that's Christian McCaffrey. We talked about it a little bit earlier. He had almost a 50-burger last week. You took him at the 206 on your 27th place team. He's showing no signs of stopping. We even made fun of, who was it, Riverboat Ron, he was talking about the 25 to 30 touches a game.
Yep.
He's trying to get him that much.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Trying to split him right in half.
So where do you think McCaffrey gets picked next year in the redraft?
Oh, I'm guessing right now he's going to be top 6 pick, probably in that 3 to 6 area. But there might be a team or two that takes him like at the 1 spot. But I'm guessing if you want him, you're going to have a top 6 pick.
And Dave, we talked about how much he climbed up draft boards this year. Towards the end. I mean, he could be climbing again he could be one of those rare guys that's like is going like the 6 or 7 pick, and then people vaulting him up to like 2 or 3.
I mean, I'd probably take him top 3.
Do you right now? You would really?
Yeah, I mean, he has an insanely high floor.
Yeah.
I mean, higher floor
because all the catches.
Yeah, he could almost set the receptionist record. I mean, he's a fantastic head-to-head. When you're playing head-to-head matches, he's great.
Yeah. No, you could be right.
With the upside, I mean, how many running backs can get 50 points? If you can't catch 8 to 10 receptions, it's almost impossible to get a 50-point game or a 40-plus point game. You just need like 3 touchdowns. So, there's other running backs that do that as well, but not to his skill level. It's really crazy.
Yeah, no, you are absolutely correct on that for sure. Scott Willis joining us on the show tonight, 27th overall in the Footballguys Players Championship, Scott. And after Delaney Walker went down on this team, you sort of were behind the 8 ball when it came to tight ends. I looked at the transactions. that you've made throughout the season. You fired a lot of darts at this position. So now as you enter league championship weekend here in the Footballguys Players Championship, obviously the sprint coming up right after that, you go to battle with Jonnu Smith, Tyler Higbee, Dallas Goedert. I know it's probably not an ideal situation for you, but how do you feel overall about that position given the Walker injury?
I mean, it is what it is. I don't feel great about it, but Jonnu Smith, he definitely has some big upside. Higbee, he's going to get a few more targets now that Cooper Kupp went down, and Goddard, he's just he's up and down. But I'm definitely going to need some luck at that position too to have a chance for the big money. But we'll see what I can do.
Dave, the one thing I do like about Scott's tight ends here, you look at them, Smith, Higbee, and Goddard, it's like, they're kind of unknowns, right? They haven't produced consistently throughout the season, but they all, in my opinion, have that potential to explode in the final 3 weeks, especially if Ertz goes down. Goddard could be special. Jonnu Smith flashed that athletic ability on the one play on Monday Night Football, and then for whatever reason, Mariota never went back to him. And then obviously, we saw what Tyler Higbee was capable of, even with Gerald Everett blowing up too. And as Scott mentioned, no Cooper Kupp the rest of the year. So there is the potential there. I think you did about as good as you could. There's another injury situation that we'll be watching for the 4-week sprint as well as we move to Los Angeles, Dave.
Yeah, so you don't have Melvin Gordon this week. You looks like you have Austin Eckler on your team, and he's in your lineup. What type of expectations do you have on Sunday night against the Steelers?
I think he's going to do pretty good. He's going to catch some balls, but for him to blow up, he's going to need to get in the end zone 1, 2, hoping 3 times. But I think he's going to do pretty good. He's a good football player.
He is good, and I don't know if you have any feelings, Scott, on Justin Jackson, because I know he got some love off the waiver wire this past week when it was announced that Melvin Gordon is probably going to miss probably more than 1 week. I don't know how you see that split going between Eckler, and Jackson. I guess it may not make a difference since you have Eckler, slated for a good fantasy output. It doesn't really matter too much what Jackson is going to do because of those pass catching shots that Austin Eckler has flashed.
Yeah, it's Eckler's had some pretty good games this year, where Gordon's got just the majority of the work anyway. So just letting Justin Jackson get into a little bit of the work, that's fine. I think he'll do all right.
Dave, do you think what do you think that split's going to be like? For not necessarily touch, but like if I was to say fantasy production from the Chargers running backs, do you slate it like 80% of it to Eckler, 20% to Jackson? Is that fair, or how do you see the touches working out while Gordon is out?
That's fair, about 80-20.
80-20?
Yeah, seems about right. Jackson to me has almost no value, and Eckler actually he's a really solid player. Once again, a great pass-catching back, so he really is quite solid as a replacement. 10
catches last week, and that was a game where Melvin Gordon played, the majority of the game, and Eckler still came up with 10 catches. So certainly a player that you'll want, as Farrell Elliott, the KFFSC commissioner would say, a player you want to be in business with. Your FPC teams this year, Scott, as I looked at them, you were done drafting by July 6th. You drafted a bunch of them, but they were all basically 4th of July, prior to that, and then you were done. This team that's in 27th was drafted on June 23rd. We're talking about like a month and a half or whatever it is before 2.5 months before the season starts. For you, why was drafting early more important than drafting late, and why did you choose to avoid those later drafts this year?
Well, I either like to draft really early or really late, like within a day to a few days before the season starts. When you draft early, there's a lot of guys in there that have experience, and they're tough to draft against. But you can find people like I got James Conner in the 16th round. You're not going to find that when the season is about to begin. So there's the pros and cons, but I either like either or, really late or really not too much in between.
Yeah, and I always like to, think that when you draft early, there is so much there's information that's out there if you can find it. I mean, you really got to look for it, but it can be so valuable if you find it. But then I think as the season gets closer and closer, that information becomes pretty available to everybody throughout the drafting community, and it's not very difficult to come across. But I think if you work a little bit harder in the early part of the season, you can definitely stumble on some guys, and James Conner is a perfect example of that, and how valuable he's been for you as a 16th round pick. No question that is an advantage of drafting early. Dave was a big fan in the dynasty drafting rookie season of DJ Moore, and started off slow, but he's actually come on. Now there's an issue, though, Dave, as Devin Funchess might be gumming up the works come this Sunday.
Yeah, so this question is whether or not Devin Funchess is going to actually impact DJ Moore. Funchess was a man who was getting most of the targets until Moore started coming on. Funchess had that one game where I think he had 5 targets. Couldn't catch a cold. It was at Detroit. He was just awful. Going back to Michigan, right?
Was this the drops where he had all the drops?
Yeah, 4 drops out of 5 targets.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Some quarterbacks, I don't know if Cam is one of those. They just won't throw to people who just keep dropping passes. It seems like Rodgers is one of those types. So anyway, make this long question longer. What do you think?
I mean, there's 2 different types of players. I think I'm facing more on 2 games this week, so I hope he kind of has an off week. But I don't think Funchess is going to have too much to do with that. But I'm hoping. I mean, DJ Moore is a player I think you want to get, especially in Dynasty. I think he's going to be pretty good.
I was excited I had one league, Kentucky Dynasty rookie draft, Dave, and I needed running backs bad in that league. And Biplab Mandel, our good buddy, was teasing me because he picked right before me. And he's like, I'm going to get that last good running back. I'm going to get him. And I'm like, you know what? You get him. I'm not taking the bait and making the deal.
You have the summon pick or something.
So he took Ronald Jones, and then I'm like, all right, well, whatever. And then the pick after, I took DJ Moore. Not really regretting that.
That's funny.
What I am kind of regretting is that I picked DJ Moore instead of guys like Nick Chubb and Kerryon Johnson.
Chubb was still out there at the start.
Chubb was still out there, yeah.
That's surprising, but I mean, I wouldn't regret that. I mean, Chubb looks great, but honestly, I own Chubb, and I think in Gridiron Legends, I would honestly have considered still trading him for more. I think that when you look at the long-term dynasty value, I know running backs are super valuable. More, I think he's a superstar player. But that, again, that's my opinion.
Well, every time I start regretting it, I just go back and look at what DJ Moore's metrics were and what he did at the Combine, and I start feeling a little bit better about myself.
The highest RotoViz phenom score of all time.
Yeah. And I'll just hang my hat on that and move on. Footballguys Players Championship, 27th place team owner on the show tonight. It is Scott Willis. He is talking about his team. He's talking about really the championship sprint in general. And it's league title weekend. Obviously, we got to get that out of the way. There's going to be a lot of cash awarded this weekend, a lot on the line. But then after that, oh boy, buckle up, because it is 3 weeks of insanity. It is 3 weeks of excitement. It is 3 weeks of craziness after. And for anybody, Scott, who has never been in the championship round before, who is in the championship round this year, and we could speak, the FPC as well as the FFPC main event, the lineup decisions get magnified. And obviously you spend more time weighing, do I go with this guy? Do I go with that guy? What's the best piece of advice that you can give these inexperienced players who have so much on the line for the very first time in their high-stakes careers? What's the best piece of advice you can give them at this point of the year?
I would just play with the guys that kind of got you there. I wouldn't look at the matchups too much. Don't try to overthink it. I remember last year I had a pretty good team, and Hunt was slowing down, and I pulled him out, and I put in Marvin Jones, and it was like a 20-point difference. So I would just don't overthink it. Just play the guys that got you there mainly.
This is good advice. Well, I mean, I feel like I've always adopted that advice too, Dave, because I always feel like when I'm setting my lineups, if I'm starting who I think is the best talent, who is my best player, and he doesn't perform, and somebody on my bench outperforms him, I usually don't feel too sick about it, because it's just like, well, I want to die with my best guys out there. They didn't get it done. It is what it is. That's sort of been my attitude about it. Is that the way you feel, or do you feel like you sometimes overthink these lineup decisions the last few weeks of the year?
Well, I've definitely overthought plenty of lineup decisions. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think you try and search for most talented players, but you still do always have to look at matchups. And wide receiver, and this gets to the next question, the quarterback is really super important. I mean, you have to have a quarterback that's throwing it, that's competent, like a Big Ben type player, a Cam Newton type player. Those are the types of guys you want throwing. Now, Tyler Boyd gets Jeff Driscoll at quarterback. We think we'd be talking about him. AJ Green is back. Actually, AJ Green had helped Boyd earlier in the season because he drew a lot of coverage. And Driscoll actually was pretty good. Scott, what do you think about Tyler Boyd? Do you consider starting him still?
I would. He did pretty good last week, and then I think he had one long catch that got called back too on a penalty. So I would play him. The guy I would be more worried about is AJ Green coming off his the injury, but Boyd, yeah, I would play him.
Yeah, I mean, Boyd, and you make a good point, Scott. He was great, even at the start of the year with AJ Green out there. Now it's a home matchup against Denver. I don't have the total up. I'm kind of curious what that total would be on the game.
I'll find it.
You're going to look it up. Thank you very much. So I'll just make my point about Boyd. You talk about, Scott already brought this up. You talk about playing the players that got you here. More than likely, if you have Tyler Boyd on your team, he's been in your lineup the majority of the season. And I don't think now is the time to go running away from him just because A.J. Green, who, by the way, I'm not convinced is 100% healthy, is going to come back in this game and all of a sudden be a godsend. So I think Boyd does make a good start. I think he is a guy that if you've been relying on him so far, you should continue to rely on him.
Denver 5-45, and even someone challenged in math can figure it out to be 25-20 as a projected score there.
Oh, there you go. Are you challenged with math?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm awesome at math.
Yeah, well, you just exhibited it.
Up to basic algebra.
Let's see how awesome I am at reading, because I have a couple of emails here for you, Scott, that came in this afternoon. Mike in Rochester, New York, he writes, this is interesting. Hey, Scott, when you're setting lineups for title games, do you ever make decisions based on what your opponent has started, or do you only look at trying to submit your best lineup no matter what? Thanks, man. That's Mike in Rochester, New York. I've been guilty of this where I see if I have potentially a wide receiver that's a fringe guy, but my wide receiver is going to be catching passes from his quarterback. Sometimes I like to start him to sort of neuter the quarterback position there. What are your thoughts on that? Do you ever look at your opponent's lineup, or is it just strictly, I can't control what he does, I'm going to control what I can do?
I look at their lineups, but I just kind of try to go with what I can control. And I'll look at it just so I know who I'm going up against that week. But I try not to let it affect me.
I think that's good advice too, Dave. Like, you don't want to get too cute with it. Sometimes I think that can be getting too cute when you're looking at, you sort of not only are you battling that team, you start battling yourself a little bit when it comes to it as well. So good advice there from you, Scott. One other email let's get to. It is from Aaron in Paynesville, Ohio. What's up, Scott? FPC league title on the line this week. Jared Cook at home against the Chiefs, or Jarvis Landry at Houston. That is Aaron in Paynesville, Ohio. Thanks for the emails, guys. Which way would you roll? Obviously, tight end premium league. Is that enough to get Cook to start over Landry? Landry's been struggling the last few weeks. Which one would you be playing if you were Aaron?
I'd go Cook. I mean, the Raiders are going to have to score a lot of points. The Chiefs are going to score points, and Cook's been their best receiver. So, I mean, I'd roll the dice to go with Cook.
You with that, Dave? Cook over Landry in a Footballguys format?
This is not Cooks, huh?
Not Cooks. Jared Cook, tight end, not Brandon Cooks, receiver.
Dang it. I was just being hopeful.
Okay, well, obviously you'd be playing Cooks over Landry. Would you play Cook over Landry?
Who's Oakland playing on? Sorry.
Kansas City.
Yeah. Landry has been struggling.
And say what you will about Kareem Hunt, Chiefs are still going to put up points, and the Raiders are going to have to throw to keep up in that game. Tight end premium score. I'll just reveal I'm playing Jarvis Cook. I'm playing Jared Cook over Jarvis Landry, no question. Landry is it's not a good matchup for him. It's been insane. I think it was 7 of his last 8 games, he's failed the top 50 receiving yards. I might be making that stat up, but it's something close to that. He had the big week 7, and outside of that, it's been really bad for Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, you make good points. I guess I probably would have to lean Cook. You convince me.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, I mean, who's healthy for Oakland? I guess Jordy Nelson will be out there, but there's no Amari Cooper, Martavis Bryant's on IR.
Yeah, I mean, the game could be 41 to zip, though. This could be the
Yeah, I guess you do run
the
into
team
that.
is god-awful. They're, and at least the Cleveland game, and by the way, I'm going to give you a little inside information.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't say this. Anyway, all right, so I was talking to a person who may or may not be involved with, the Texans, and he said that they were partying pretty hard after the victory
Really?
on Monday night. So, if I was a betting person, I might have to take the Browns plus 5.5 this week, just because I think that maybe Houston's, they're coming down off that high, and Cleveland's an up-and-coming team. They got rid of their awful coach, Hugh Jackson, so I don't know. I'm not saying Landry's a great start. I'm just thinking I kind of like Cleveland to keep that game pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And if they do, Landry will probably be a part of it.
Yeah.
So whatever.
We have a question coming in from the chat room tonight, Scott. It is from our good buddy Wasp Guy. He wants to know, and we actually have an email similar to this coming up, but I'll do his right now. He has a flex question. Does he go with Josh Adams, who is playing against, I believe he's playing against Washington on Monday Night Football? Does he go with him, or does he play David Moore, the wide receiver from Seattle, taking on the 49ers this week? Which guy would make it in your lineup if you had to pick between those two?
Between those two, I'd go Josh Adams.
Adams, I mean,
he's a quasi-feature back.
Yeah, and David Moore, I don't know what it is with those Seattle receivers. They seem to be so touchdown dependent, but they're getting touchdowns.
That's because they never get more than 4 catches a game, because Wilson throws the ball 22 times.
Right, yeah.
So there you go. You're kind of stuck.
Yeah. And, I mean, if Moore doesn't get a touchdown, here's the thing, even if Moore does get a touchdown, Josh Adams could still outscore him. And so I think the play is Adams this week.
Answer my pipe in saying you can't play more with Baldwin and Lockett both healthy.
I'm not convinced Baldwin is healthy. I mean, he's healthy-ish. He's probably the most healthy he's been all year. I still think that knee thing is bad. Tyler Lockett's another guy. Just insane efficiency when it came to touchdowns this year. He's catching he's got 8 scores, and I don't even know, on 40 catches or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, whenever someone says it's a super high efficiency player, it means to me I want to bench him, because it means they're not getting enough targets.
Yeah.
Not always.
But you know what? He's still scoring touchdowns. I don't know how he does it, but he does. Dave, Scott's been very gracious with his time. We do want to ask him our favorite question, the most important question, the question that changes lives here on the show before we let him go off and to enjoy his Friday night.
Yeah, so what should be my purpose in life?
Okay, that's another good one. You're going to have to add that one on.
All right, sorry, Scott. Give us a guy that you think a lot of high-stakes players will be starting this week that should probably not be in their lineups. Can't say Hunt. And also a sleeper that deserves to be in lineups this week.
I'm going to say I don't trust Sony Michel. He had a good game last week, but you got somebody else. I might put him in over Michel. And then a player that is not going to be in the lineup that probably should be. I think Rashad Penny, if you have him on your team, I think he's going to have a good week.
Brian Schottenheimer came out and said, and I think we got something later on in the show about this, but he actually said, they expect Rashad Penny to have a big week this week, and against San Francisco, that is certainly possible, especially with no Reuben Foster on that team chasing him down sideline to sideline. So I think Rashad Penny is an interesting guy. Hey, selfishly, I'm going to ask you this, Scott, because it's a decision I have to make in one of my leagues. New England is taking on Minnesota, I believe from Foxborough this week. I know they're taking on Minnesota. I think it is a home game for the Pats. I have to make a decision. I can only play one of these guys. Would you rather play James White or would you rather play Sony Michel? Which Patriots running back do you like better?
I'd go James White.
Dave, are you with Scott on that? James White over Sony Michel this week?
I would probably start Michel.
You go Michel. Why would you go Michel? I'm curious.
Is
it the goal line aspect? Is it?
Yeah, he has been getting more carries. I know that White, 8 for 70 something last week. I just Burkhead's back too. I think that Michel is their preferred first line back.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason I just like him better. I think his talent level is vastly superior to James White.
And Scott, I'm assuming you like White just because of the sheer amount of catches he's been getting this year.
Yeah, that's the reason why I would do it. Correct.
All right, fellas. Well, thanks. That doesn't help me at all. One of you saying White, one of you saying Michelle. I'm going to poll the chat room here. Actually, I'm secretly going to go with whatever you say, Scott, because you were 27th overall in the Football Guys Players Championship.
Oh, here it comes.
And Dave is not. Scott, listen, it's been a tremendous season for you thus far. I hope it can be an even better one. Good luck in your league title game this weekend. Good luck in the Football Guys Players Championship round. Hopefully you'll be cashing a big check at the end of the year. We certainly enjoyed talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck to you the rest of the way, and enjoy your weekend in San Diego, my friend.
Thank you, guys. I enjoyed it. Have a good night, all right?
Scott Willis, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Scott, for popping on tonight. 27th place in the Football Guys Players Championship as we head in to league title weekend.
Just real quick, Tony Michelle had 21 rushes last year, 2 catches on 2 targets. James White had 8 rushes and 1 catch on 5 targets, so he only had 9 touches last week. So it's a little bit.
Nah.
No, granted, it's 1 week.
Yeah.
It's different. The Vikings are a home favorite. They're only a 5-point favorite. I'm actually a little surprised that they're that low of a favorite. And I don't know.
No, the Patriots are the
Patriots
favorite.
are a 5-point favorite.
What's the total on that game? Do you have that?
I think it's 47.
That seems low. Doesn't it seem low to you?
No, let me just.
I feel like that should be 50 plus. In other words, I would be taking the over, ladies and gentlemen, at 47 this weekend.
I'm sorry, my apologies. It's 49.5.
All right. Well, that's I'm gonna have to tease it down now and go from there. Apparently, let's get into to the Fantasy Flash tonight. This is a little bit dated because of this evolving situation with Kareem Hunt, with Spencer Ware in the backfield with this video that came out from TMZ of him assaulting this young lady at the Cleveland hotel. Just a unbelievable story. Dan Graziano on Twitter is the one who reported that the Chiefs have indeed cut Kareem Hunt. He is no longer a part of their football team. A zero-tolerance policy on domestic violence from Kansas City. Again, as the aforementioned video was posted to TMZ today. Now, it didn't sound like Hunt was going to be playing again the rest of the year anyway because he probably wasn't moving off that commissioner exempt list. But Kansas City is not wanting to deal with any of the fallout of keeping him on the roster as he is gone. He was a third-round pick last year. He led the league in rushing as a rookie and obviously had a banana season as Dave had alluded to earlier. This is great news, I guess, for Spencer Ware from a fantasy standpoint. There's not much really to say here. I guess, Dave, if you got Spencer Ware on your team, you got to find a way to get him into your lineups this week. I mean, to me, he's a top 12 running back.
I guess. I'm so sad, though.
Do you not want to talk about it? We can move on. We don't have to talk about it.
I'm so sad. I'm just kidding. I mean, you have to move on. Spencer Ware. Top 12 running back, to me, it's a little bit optimistic. I mean, I just don't think he's that great of a back. I mean, he really isn't. And you still have to have the talent. You can't just throw any Tom, Dick, or Harry or Gus Edwards in there and kill it. Well, I guess you
Tom, Dick, Harry, or Gus.
Gus. And so, I don't know. We've seen Spencer Ware. He does have a propensity to get hurt. I think the Damian Williams ads make a lot of sense for people. But, if you have to start him and that's your choices, you start him. You start him over guys ranked lower, like Sterling Shepard or any of those kind of crap.
Yeah.
Over Jarvis Landry.
Well, okay, but let's get back to the running backs. So we just talked about the Patriots running backs. Would you be playing him over James White or Sony Michel this week? Is he that good?
I would start him over White for sure, and Michel I'd have to think about it a little bit further. But I would, because he has the whole backfield to himself and it's a great offense. I'd probably have to think that I would do that.
Yeah. He has flashed in the past. I mean, we've seen some pretty good moments from Spencer Ware, and I think the big knock on him, as you alluded to, he just can't stay on the field.
Yeah, he's been solid, and he's always split time whenever he's gotten time out there too. So
right, and we'll see if he splits with Damian Williams. Wouldn't that be an interesting thing? Although that hasn't really seemed to be that in the Andy Reid way as far as splitting the backfield up.
And the game situation is going to be really good. They should be running the whole second half and all that.
And that was my point of why I think he is a top 12 guy this week, because you made a great point. It could be a 41-0 type game, and I think Spencer Ware is going to get a lot of looks. He's obviously got fresh tread on the tires as he hasn't been taking hits all season long. So I think there is something to be said for that as well for Spencer Ware moving forward, at least for this week, and we can move. let's just touch on this briefly, just for our dynasty owners. Kareem Hunt and dynasty. I don't know if I'd give up a 4th round pick for him right now.
Well, I would for sure.
Really?
100%.
I am.
I'd pay a second. No one's selling him for a second. I think he's coming. He'll be back eventually.
Okay, but not with the Chiefs.
I would say the odds are against.
What about this? What about this? Could he end up on the team that the Chiefs are playing this weekend next year? Could it be an Oak? I mean, wouldn't that be a Raiders move?
I think it's possible. I mean, in reality, okay, he made a big mistake. And you look at the video, it's not as bad as the rights video. That one was really terrible. And I'm not, domestic violence is awful. I'm not getting into the whole situation of the morality of it. It's terrible. I don't want to make it seem like there's different degrees of it's still terrible what he did. The point though is that you're going to get the people making the arguments that this is his career. He deserves a second chance. He's sorry. He can donate money to some cause of some sort, issue public statement, and people do love to forgive in America. That's what America's all about. And so he will get his chance, I think, at redemption. Maybe serve a 6-game suspension or something like that for violating the domestic violence policy. And he is, as our buddy Leroy is proud to say, he's part of a union. He is part of the NFL Players Association, and he does have rights. And those rights do stipulate that the policy says he gets a 6-game suspension, and then he gets the chance to go back on the field. So that's just the way it is. So unless he comes out and it does something even just is a complete idiot about it, I think he will absolutely get a chance in 2019. And
just don't sue the league. I think is the big advice I can give Kareem Hunt if he wants a job going forward in the NFL. That would probably be a wise decision.
Well, the thing is with Kaepernick, he was like he's older and he was like a borderline quality quarterback. If it was Cam Newton or somebody like that, it would have gotten itself worked out. So I think there's some parallels here with Michael Vick as well. I mean, look how good he was for a couple of years when he came back for Philadelphia. Yeah, I mean, that was a bad incident as well. So and Vick, you could argue Vick was a lot further along in his career and more washed up. Hunt is like not even hitting the prime of his career.
23? Is he 23?
Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, he's a fantastic back. So I mean, he unfortunately that's the reality we deal with. Superstar players, just like whether it's politicians or other people that are involved in issues like this, they find a way to come back usually, but not always, but usually they can.
He is not on injured reserve. You can't use him in an IR slot, obviously, David.
I haven't even got an email about it for him.
There you go. It's still fresh. If you own him in Dynasty, you're just keeping him around until you're talking about mid 2019 at the earliest of this guy coming back.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to get full value for him, you have to keep him. I mean, right now there's no trading going on, but once the trading deadline or trading opens up, I think you'll see some deals with Hunt. Hunt will get moved one way or the other.
He'll be cut in a few leagues too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I don't think so in Dynasty.
Short bench FFPC?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
I really don't. Really don't think so. And the chat room is wisely talking about how Andy Reid, the way he uses backs, he loves to just use back or throw to their back.
Yep.
So wherever he lands, I mean, if he lands in one of those timeshare places, then it could be a different story.
It could be, and it's definitely a story that we're probably going to be putting to bed for 2018, but we'll be talking about it in the off season for sure. Let's move on from the electric talent of Kareem Hunt to the equally electric talent of Bruce Ellington, who is listed as questionable for the game against the Rams this week, according to Tim 20Man on Twitter.
Which, by the way, Brandon Hakey was saying on Twitter he's going to start Ellington over Deion Lewis, which I think is absurd. But go ahead.
Who did Tennessee have this week?
Who cares? He's starting running back for the Titans.
Titans are...
They're a favorite. Like the Jets or something?
Yeah, they're hosting the Jets. That's exactly what it is.
What, are they laying 11?
And
they're laying 8.
All right.
Anyway.
Now, he had the same back injury last week. He got 7 targets. He caught 6 of them for a whopping 28 yards. He's had 16 targets over the last 2 games. I think this is... I know there's no Golden Tate. I know there's no Marvin Jones Jr., but, I mean, Bruce Ellington, it seems tempting to slip him in at flex. Look elsewhere. I don't like it.
I agree. By the way, Bruce Ellington is very dear to my friends Kurt and Leroy because they drafted him not once but twice in, I think it was last year or was it 2 years ago, Balky? I can't remember which it was, but Ellington 2 years ago, Ellington was already on IR at the time they drafted him in 2 FFPC leagues, and spent the 20-something round pick. And they
still won the league.
And they didn't. They didn't place at all.
No, well, they
spent about $2,000 on that, so good job, guys.
Probably should not have drafted Bruce Ellington. I will say this. Brandon Hakey is playing for like 8 titles in Kentucky this week. He knows what's going on. This is a guy who was all aboard the Kareem Hunt train last year and was drafting him everywhere super late. Really was very fortunate to get him in all the spots he did. He crushed it. So I wouldn't play Ellington over Lewis, but if Ellington, cuts up the Rams this week as they're, going to be playing from behind, you would think for the majority of the game, it would not surprise me if he outscores Deion Lewis.
Yeah, I like to see a Stafford getting, rocked all game long with, the pass protection for them is terrible, and I think the Rams are just going to woodshed.
Let's keep it in Detroit. Kerryon Johnson is out against the Rams, according to Dave Burkett on Twitter. No Kerryon Johnson on Sunday, so it's going to be LeGarrette Blount, Theo Riddick, and the guy who just never goes away, Zach Zenner in the backfield.
I hope I never have to hear his name again, but here it is.
Last week, on Thanksgiving against the Bears, LeGarrette Blount had 19 carries, 33 snaps. That was a 50%, not snap share, but played 50% of the offensive snaps. LeGarrette Blount, Dave, the Rams defense is good, but they can be had in the running game. Now, here's the thing: are you going to be able to be in a position for the majority of the game to run the ball to LeGarrette Blount 15 plus times? That I'm not sure of.
Look at 8 carries.
Okay. So you are not playing him anywhere.
If I don't have to not play Blount, I'd love to play Riddick though.
Yeah, I do too. I mean,
Riddick is so good of a pass.
That's the thing.
He's like McCaffrey without the rushes.
Yeah, exactly. He and the speed. He and the power. He and the glory. He will not. He's going to be such a focal point with no Jones and no real threat at tight end. Kenny Golladay could be gobbled up. I just saw Aqib Talib got taken off IR today, so he's going to be back. I mean, if I'm the Rams defense and Wade Phillips, I'm focusing everything on Kenny Golladay and just letting Theo Riddick beat me underneath, which he probably won't be able to do, but he's going to gobble up like 12, 13, 14 catches. It certainly is possible in that situation. So, yeah, I like Theo Riddick a lot this week as well. God, I hope Kerryon Johnson's back next week. Really need him to come back.
Balky got his team.
Listen, this is not a show for a lot of people think, we do this for the players. We want them to come out and hang out with us in Vegas and showcase all these guys that have great seasons. It's really just I'm just really looking for an audience to talk about how great my fantasy teams are and what I'm personally rooting for. We're gonna the 2 finalists for the show name when we launched this podcast 8 years ago is either going to be the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour or Balky's Corner. And we ended up going with HSFF Hour over Balky's Corner.
We haven't really ever revealed what we really call the show privately amongst ourselves. We call it the Eric Balkman Show, starring Eric Balkman. So
the inside joke on that is
there's no joke. That's what it is.
There is a joke on this because the Twitter that is hooked up to Blog Talk Radio when an episode goes out. My Twitter account will tweet out, listen to my show that just got done. And I think it was Two-Packer picked up on it, like, it's Balky's show, And so then that just took off that, like, it's Eric. And then obviously when you're not around and I have a co-host, I play the Eric Balkman Show intro music as opposed to our normal intro music to play that up even more. So it is not my show. It is the FFPC Players Show. That's the reason we do it. We love it. That's Dubois guy in the chat room. How about Balky's Cornered? That's not bad. Might have to look into that. I alluded to this earlier when we were talking to Scott Willis, but Liz Matthews on Twitter posted that Seahawks offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer said he expects Rashad Penny to have a, quote, bigger role this week against the 49ers. Full quote, I expect that he will play well this weekend. Expect that we need to get the running game back going again, and I think he'll be a big part of that. Chris Carson came back from his injury 2 weeks ago, and he's played 47% of the snaps. He's out-touched Rashad Penny 35-12. Mike Davis has gotten 10 touches on 27 total snaps over the last 2 weeks as well. Dave, if you had a choice between Carson and Penny, I'm still playing Carson. And in one of my leagues, I think in the Oh My Goodness team, I think I have Carson as my flex in there right now, and I feel all right about it.
Yeah, I would too, actually. I think this is a little bit of coach speak. Carson always gets those goal line carries. They really love to run the ball and stuff right up there. If it's a 4-yard line, they're going to give it to him 2 or 3 times. He almost always maybe this week he doesn't get a touchdown, but they're a big favorite. He probably has I'd say has a 75-80% chance of scoring a touchdown. So I'm definitely starting Carson. And Penny, I would actually, if I was desperate, I would actually consider throwing him in as a flex, but that's about it.
I'm going to vamp here for a second while you look up the point spread and the total on that Niners-Seahawks game, because I think it's going to be interesting.
10 and 46.
46 in that game. Wow. I think I'd take the under, but that gives me hope. Mike Davis is nothing, right?
Yeah, I caught him in a couple of leagues for Damian Williams tonight.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, that's we still like Carson. I know that Scott said he liked Rashad Penny this week, and to his credit, I mean, we asked him like a sleeper that's not going to be in a whole lot of lineups that you think should be, and he's like, well, yeah, I mean, look at Rashad Penny. This is a guy that Brian Schottenheimer talked up. This is a guy that was a first-round pick, so there is some upside with him as well. I still, for my money, would play Carson over Penny. All right, moving on. Randall Cobb, one of your favorite players, Dave. The electric playmaking Randall Cobb is listed as questionable this week against Arizona. He got in 3 limited practice this week. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was working as the number 2 receiver, in his stead while he was hurt. But he's only gotten 5 targets, caught 2 catches for 11 yards over the past 2 weeks combined. The reason I bring this up, Dave, and maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe I'm getting too cute. Maybe there's nothing here and I'm just making stuff up, which would certainly not be the first time it's happened. I look at this Arizona defense and I see Patrick Peterson and I see Chandler Jones and not a whole lot else as far as defensive playmakers go. I would imagine that Patrick Peterson would be locked up with Devontae Adams a good portion of the game. If Randall Cobb is healthy, wouldn't you think that he will see a lot of targets now that Aaron Rodgers gets his buddy back?
I don't know, man. I cannot press the save button with Randall Cobb or Marquise Vandless, whatever the hell his name is, Spalding.
MVs.
I can't save the lineup with either of those 2 in it.
Yeah.
I put Naheem Hines in there over either of those 2. Clowns.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
forget about it.
Wait, even if Marlon Mack played?
Even if Mack played, I'm putting Hines in over those 2 clowns. Forget
Crazy.
it. They're awful.
What about Rashad Penny or Randall Cobb? Who would you play then?
I'd play Penny. Cobb is awful.
Wow, Penny over Cobb. I got to dumb this down even further.
Did you want to put 5 on it?
No, I don't. Because I wanted to kind of I wanted to present this argument because this is the argument for Cobb. Let me ask you this. FFPC tight end premium scoring, Jeff Driscoll tossing the rock around to A.J. Green now this week.
Use them up.
Yeah, use them over Cobb. Use them over Cobb.
Sure.
Holy hell! I'm going into the abyss now.
Okay, so in 28, hang on, go ahead.
All right.
Why do we talk so much about this guy who's so terrible?
Peyton Barber or Randall Cobb?
Barber.
John Brown or Randall Cobb? John Brown, who's done nothing since Lamar Jackson took over.
John Brown.
Oh my God! All right, go ahead. You have something to say.
He has 26 receptions on 258 yards and 1 touchdown, and that includes week 1 where he was 9 for 142 and a touchdown. Since then, 2, 3, 4, and 5 he played. He went 4 for 30, 4 for 22, 4 for 40, 5 for 24, and he's missed every game since then. He sucks. Next, let's go on.
All right, 2 more for you. Devin Funchess or Randall Cobb?
Funchess.
Chris Thompson.
Oh, Thompson's playing Thompson.
All right. I really thought I'd be able to find somebody that you would say Cobb over. How about
sure there's somebody.
How about this one? How about the Bills' number 1 receiver, Kelvin Benjamin or Randall Cobb?
Oh, now we're getting close.
All right. Now we're in that area.
Like Zay Jones or Randall Cobb. Like those are the coin flips.
Yeah.
Like god awful players.
Zay Jones has actually been outperforming Kelvin Benjamin the last few weeks.
That's true. I'd probably start Zay Jones. Yeah, I would probably start Cobb over Benjamin.
Okay.
Because I think he's pretty bad.
Last one.
This is the playoffs.
I know.
No one's starting.
I know.
This
I'm doing this for my own personal benefit
God,
now.
this is bad.
The currently listed as doubtful Danny Amendola or Randall Cobb. Which one are you playing?
I'll start Deuce McAllister.
All right. And then the last one from the chat room, 2-packer, Cobb or Gurley?
2-packer. Can we disconnect?
Can we mute his chat? Mute his chat somehow?
2-packer.
Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough. I think we got our fill of that. Let's move on to your tweets, your emails, your questions.
Hopefully you go to the bathroom during that.
Here on Fantasy Feedback.
Tweet, 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 tweet. If you've got a question for Eric, Dave, or tonight's guest, send them a tweet at HSFF Hour on Twitter. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Post it in the chat room during the broadcast. Hashtag your tweet with HSFF or just smack Eric in the head. That's highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com or at HSFF Hour on Twitter.
Every chickadee, every little bird in the tall oak tree.
Got a bunch of emails, David. It's league championship weekend. I don't know if I've mentioned that already. Actually, I have about 9 times on the show.
Yep, all the league championship people that lost Hunt can now put in Randall Cobb. Put him in there. Get him in your flex.
I wonder if
he's getting 12 targets. He's going to go 7 for 110 and a touchdown, maybe 2.
I wonder if anybody's actually going to be forced to do that now. My next best guy is Randall Cobb. Thank God he came back in time.
I sure hope so. I know there's one league where I just started Landry over. Now with Hunt's out, so I just started Landry.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here and try to help people win some cash. Moving to Crane Lake, Minnesota, and we're going to talk to Kevin. Is sitting LaShawn McCoy in favor of Josh Adams getting too cute? I need the dub to go to the playoffs. Thanks so much, guys. That's Kevin in Crane Lake, Minnesota. So Kevin obviously is not in league title weekend. He is trying to get to the playoffs. Dave, Josh Adams is hosting the Redskins on Monday Night Football. LaShawn McCoy is at Miami. It's a 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Would you play Adams over McCoy this week?
Yeah, I would.
Really?
Yeah, they were a home favorite.
Okay.
He gave him, I think it was 22 rushes last week. Over under 6 and 45. They really like the guy. McCoy's not been that good. They're a 3.5-point dog. The total's only 40.
Oh, wow.
The Buffalo and Miami, those are both really good defenses. Actually,
Yeah.
you'd be okay starting either one of those as defenses, especially in Kentucky where low scores matter. That game could be a 17-13 type game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Adams is the play. I think Adams is the play over McCoy. It is not being too cute was the question. Josh, okay, this is Dean in Omaha. Josh Gordon against the Vikings or Larry Fitzgerald against your stumbling Packers, guys? Which one do you like there? Go and by the way, that game's in Foxborough and the game is in Lambeau. So both these guys are playing at home. Gordon obviously catching passes as the number 2 receiver for New England behind Edelman. And then Larry Fitzgerald, this is an away game. He goes to Lambeau. He is catching passes from Josh Rosen as the number 1 receiver. Which one are you playing?
I'll take the guy catching passes from Tom Brady versus Josh Rosen.
Yeah, okay. I think I can get on board with that. Fitzgerald's been kind of hit or miss, but mostly missed this season. I had him in a bunch of spots this year, and I felt really good about it because he's my number 3. I was drafting as my number 3 receiver, and it just has not worked out this season.
Well, Fitz has come on since Leftwich took over, and he's been getting targets. He actually has caught a touchdown, or maybe even 2 recently. And he's performing all right, but I think last week he only had a few catches.
Well, wasn't it last week where I got excited because I saw him like, oh, sweet, Fitz, 2 touchdowns. On 2 catches. Come on. Yeah,
I mean, it's just the quarterback play is not as good. Gordon's, even though Gronk's back, Gordon still gets some targets. I mean, there are a ton of weapons there, and that is the difference, is there's not a lot of weapons. And I wouldn't actually feel that bad about starting Fitz in general.
Right.
But I do lean to Gordon not by a ton, actually. By a bit, though.
Let me ask you this. Let's say Fitz decides to come back for another year, and he's going to play in 2019. Obviously, Josh Rosen will be his quarterback. Would you draft him in a different spot than where he went this year? In other words,
yeah, of course.
You would draft him way further down?
Yeah. Whether it's he has not proven to be the value. He was being drafted pretty early this year, and he was not even proven to be close to where he was being drafted.
I guess my point.
By the way, I was wrong on that. I thought this was another great year. So
I guess my point was this: he's catching passes from a rookie quarterback.
Right.
So
he'll be better.
Yeah, but it's not enough for you to like him near the.
Well, he's getting to the point where it's like really getting old.
And I guess you wouldn't necessarily have to pick him in that spot either because he will tumble, so you could get him later. Get him as like your 4th receiver. That'd be all right.
Yeah, 4th or 5th. I mean, for sure. Anthony Hyman just said around 8 or 9. He said yes later. So.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Concur.
John in Springfield, Mass. Dear Dave and Balky, Uzoma is it Uzoma?
Who cares?
My co-host on the Appleton Trophy Fantasy Football Show did an Uzoma.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm like...
What channel is that show?
That's on 95.3 in Appleton, 99.1 in Oshkosh, Dave. Of course, if you prefer the AM radio station, it's AM 1570. You can also go to thescorewi.com or download the Score mobile app and listen live on that. We do the show at 4:56 every Thursday, and we have 3 more shows before the end of the season, and then we'll that'll be it until August. Anyway, John in Springfield, Mass. Uzuma is getting the targets, but is he going to get enough with Greenback this week to make him a better start over Trey Burton taking on the Bears? Well, Trey Burton is not taking on the Bears, to my knowledge. He's taking on the Giants. Trey Burton taking on the Bears. Appreciate everything you guys do. That is John in Springfield, Massachusetts. So, Dave, which one are you playing? Is it Uzuma or is it Trey Burton this week?
I would play Trey Burton. You don't sound like you like that.
I don't like either one. I don't.
Driscoll or whatever the hell his name is.
Jeff Driscoll. I guess I don't really like either one of these. I mean, if you got to play one of them, Trey Burton has been he is touchdown dependent, and I don't necessarily think that Uzuma is. I think I mentioned this earlier in the show. I don't think that AJ Green's just going to come in and set the world on fire right away. I know he was close to playing last week. I don't know, dude. I think I might lean toward Uzuma over Burton this week. Not going to put 5 on it, but I think I like Uzuma better than Burton. And I've had Burton on a couple of my teams, and he's let me down. Maybe that's what it is. Of course, I have Uzuma on a couple of my teams, and he's been letting me down too. So you never know. Hey, Johnny and Brett. This is Andy in Norcross, Georgia. I drafted Aaron Rodgers early, but have been riding the coattails of the dude I drafted to back him up for most of the season, Andrew Luck. Should I still play Luck again this week against the Jags with Rodgers getting the Cardinals at Lambeau? Thank you for the email. Andy in Norcross, Georgia. Dave, you have Luck, you have Rodgers. Which one are you starting this week with everything on the line?
All right, give me un momento, por favor.
I will give you un momento, por favor. And I'll actually give you more than a moment here because I did see in the chat, Wasp Guy, Dave and Balky, most brilliant sleeper this weekend, league championships at stake. Well, here's the thing. You shouldn't have to really, and Michael Cobb actually made this comment on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. You shouldn't have to count necessarily on sleepers at this point because if you've gotten this far, your lineup should be loaded. If you're looking for, somebody to toss in there and just, really kind of hope for the best, and I'm going deep here. Jalen Richard could catch a pile of passes against Kansas City. I think he's a guy to look at. Marlon Mack, I'm not necessarily too worried about the Jaguars defense. Hint, at the answer to my question, or my answer to this question that from the listener right now. I think Marlon Mack is a guy that you should get in your lineups. We'll talk about the Jaguars running backs in a little bit. Theo Riddick, I think Dave and I have both already alluded to that we really like quite a bit this week. I think Chris Carson is an interesting guy. And then you get higher the Tariq Cohens, the Nick Chubbs. You should be playing those guys anyway. So I don't have a great sleeper for you, but knowing how well you've been doing this year, you shouldn't have to count on any great sleepers in your leagues because you are so loaded there. Dave, your thoughts? Luck versus Rodgers.
I'm going to go with Luck, actually, which is weird because I don't really – if it's close, I generally prefer a home quarterback versus a road quarterback, and Luck is on the road. Rodgers, though, is a 14-point favorite. They don't really have much to play for anymore, even though Rodgers is pretending they have a shot at the playoffs. It's like a 3% shot, according to 538.com.
Yeah.
They have almost no shot. The Colts are only a 4-point favorite, oddly enough, against the Jaguars. So it could actually end up being a kind of close-ish game, a little more competitive than people sometimes think. I feel like the talent that Luck is throwing to is better. And Luck is completing 76% of his passes over the past 5 weeks, averaging almost 9 yards an attempt. That's pretty damn
really
good.
awesome. That's really.
And like I told all you guys, his shoulder thing was nothing.
Listen, you listen.
Don't listen to any of the old shows.
You listen to Dave Gerzak in the preseason.
Luck.
He was telling everybody and their mother to draft Andrew Luck early because he's going to have a banana season. Jalen Ramsey, by the way, might miss this game too, so that would even be better for Luck. I'm with you.
His mouth will miss the game.
Yeah, exactly. I am with you on Luck over Rodgers. That's who I would be playing. I will defend the honor of my friend to be in the future Aaron Rodgers. If you watch that, now when you say Aaron Rodgers is pretending they have a shot, what are you basing that on?
Let's say it again.
You said Aaron Rodgers is pretending the Packers have a shot at the playoffs. What are you basing that on?
Well, various websites like Football Outsiders or 538.com, they project.
No. I'm saying like what are you basing it on that Aaron Rodgers?
Rodgers was saying something like
right.
how many we have to beat this team.
Right.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
You have something, a joke.
It's not a joke. This is legit. Did you read what he said, or did you watch him say it?
To be honest with you, I heard you imitating.
Okay.
I didn't hear the actual original.
Here, and that I think is the difference, because I was talking to my co-host on the show with Leo and Balky this week, and he did not see Rodgers say this in the press conference. He just read what somebody said. Well, what needs to happen? And Rodgers said, we got to beat these guys. We got to go home, beat these guys, and on the road beat the. And if you watch him say it, it was like the Nixon-Kennedy debate, where if you saw it on TV, you thought Kennedy won, but if you listened to it on the radio, you thought Nixon won. The way he was saying this, he was he had this sheepish grin on his face, and to me, it seemed like he was almost embarrassed to say it. Like, yeah, we're in this position, and this is all we have to do to win. Like, I think he was like kind of, not that he was saying it sarcastically, but saying like, yeah, this is all we have to do, but really, it's going to be really, really, really difficult to do. So I will just say that. I don't think I think he's a realist. He understands that, literally everything has to go right. But again, nobody cares about this.
For the Football Outsiders, the odds on making the playoffs are 14.4%. I think 538 had it at 6%.
Yeah, I mean, they really needed to win one of the last 5 games, or they really needed to win 2 of the last 5 games, and they only won 1 against Miami. That was unfortunate. Jeff in Southfield, Michigan. Thanks to Leonard Fournette screwing me in my Dynasty League, I can only play one between Hyde and Yeldon to go with Aaron Jones this week, as I need a big score to win a tiebreaker to get into the playoffs. Which Jaguar do I go with? Love your show. That is Jeff in Southfield, Michigan. Jeff, we love it when you contact us with questions. You can only play one. Go ahead.
What was it? So, let's do the question first.
He's playing Aaron Jones as his number 1 running back.
Great, good job.
He can't play Fournette because he's suspended.
Right.
It's a dynasty league, so he has both Yeldon and Hyde. Which Jaguars running back is he playing?
This is pretty easy. You start Yeldon. He's a pass-catching back. He has a higher floor, and it's just as good of a ceiling. Hyde kind of sucks.
Now, it's interesting you say that. There's plenty of advice sites out there that have Hyde over Yeldon.
Cool. Let's bet $5.
No, because I'm with you on this, and I've been defending Yeldon all week, I feel like. He's the pass catcher. I mean, like, what's Hyde going to, is he going to get goal line? I mean, Yeldon is not a small guy. He can get goal line, too. I don't, Hyde's a volume guy, and I think he might get the carries, but Yeldon is going to get the catches. And when it comes to catches,
Oh, God. So bad.
All right, what were you going to say?
What if you had like a pretty awesome team? You're like, you just won your semifinal, and your running backs are Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, and Kareem Hunt. Those are like the 3.
Yikes.
Dude, they're all gone.
Unbelievable.
I mean, heading into today at 2 o'clock today, you're like, I can't believe I lost Fournette for a stupid suspension or fighting. Gordon got hurt, but at least I have Hunt.
We took a lot.
And now
and now you're screwed. Yeah.
And then who gets blamed? The FFPC.
Oh, no question. I mean, you guys should have told us this was coming.
Can I put Fournette?
Don't tell me you guys didn't see that video. We knew you saw that video and you withheld that.
Some guy, we took a lot of phone calls this week on the Appleton Trophy Fantasy Football Show, and a lot of them were upbeat, happy, and then some guy called in just super depressed, and we're like, what's going on? He's like, well, my season was going great. I was set up to really, do some damage this last week. I needed a win to get into the playoffs, but it seemed like a foregone conclusion. My team was loaded. But my starting 2 running backs are Leonard Fournette and Melvin Gordon. And
you have to have depth, but it's just you can't replace
but that's he was playing in like a 14-teamer or something.
Oh, man,
it's like, there's just nothing out there. I mean, I can't. And I don't remember what his options were, but they were really, really bad. Like I think Justin Jackson was out there, and I'm like, well, I guess you can pick him up, dude, but you got to temper expectations here because it ain't going to go the way you want it to go on Sunday.
Yeah, I would have told him to focus on other elements of his life. There's got to be some other things going right.
Like listening to the show. The Appleton Trophy Fantasy Football Show. Or something. Yeah, no, there's other...
Moving on to next year.
Yes, exactly.
Is there a second place prize?
Bear Sox. Ray in Hartford, Connecticut wraps things up this week on the show. Help me out in my flex, guys. Theo Riddick versus the Rams or Tyler Lockett versus the Niners?
Yeah, this is easy for
Riddick. Yeah, I mean, Lockett is – they are polar opposite players. Riddick is going to get a ton of catches. Lockett probably will not get a ton of catches. Lockett probably has a better chance at a touchdown. I don't even know if that's necessarily true, but the sheer volume of catches that Riddick should get in a game where Matthew Stafford is probably going to have to throw it 40-plus times, I think you got to get him in your lineup.
Yeah, even if you have even if you need like a really big score, I would still go with Riddick.
So was that it? I thought
There's not much more to it.
Okay, all right. It seemed like you were going to say more. That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for our show. Oh, real quick before we end it. Watch guy just posted in the chat. Wilkins RB1 for him. Is he an RB1? No, he's not RB1. I'm not sure. Watch guy, if you could clarify. We are clearly not thinking on an Ivy League professor level here. It is late on a Friday night. Dave and I have had a couple of adult beverages, and we are not thinking clear. Oh, you haven't?
I don't know. Okay. I don't admit this stuff on the air, Bob.
I admit it on the air.
I have insurance.
All the time. I want to thank Scott Willis, Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and each and every one of you. I do want to make special mention of this. Jim Seipel, Dave. Jim Seipel is the 2014 Footballguys Players Championship champion. Won $300,000 that year. Had him on the show. Great guy. He's touring the United States, going to all these ballparks. He and I are going to get together for a Brewers game one of these years. Since then, we said we were going to, and it just hasn't worked out. I found out this week he is actually in the hospital right now awaiting a heart transplant.
Wow.
Yeah, so big, serious stuff for him. I know he is still paying very close attention to the FFPC season. He has a team in competition in the Terminator, and I just wanted to say on the show this week that best wishes go out to him, and we hope he pulls through just fine, and we'll be back before he knows it, setting lineups and what have you. So, Jim, we are thinking about you, and best of luck, best wishes there. So Kern was saying, I don't know if you saw this, Dave, Kern was saying Jordan Wilkins for the guy who lost both Gordon and Fournette in the 14-teamer. That'd be another guy.
Yeah, that could be another desperation play.
I should have had Kern. I should be like texting.
Jack Rogers would be another one that's a really.
Oh yeah, he'd be an interesting guy. I should have Kern I should be texting him when I'm on the show, so I'm not actually giving out my own horrible advice. I should be giving out what Kern said. Kern has a team, by the way, that's doing very, very well in the Footballguys Players Championship. At least one.
Oh really?
Yeah.
He should come on the show.
One of these days, I think we'll get Hudson Kern Reeve on these airwaves. He's been ducking us for a while. He can only.
That's not very nice.
He can.
If he really liked us, dude, come on.
Oh, he loves us, and I think that.
No, he really did like us.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. He sees
manipulation.
He's an Ivy League professor. He's going to see through your psychology 101 BS, Dave.
He doesn't get what I'm talking about.
Good luck in your championship games, everybody. I hope the ball bounces your way this weekend. We'll talk to you again next week.